Grundig-Heinzelmann 1, 1954. This video is informational and not entertaining. This table of contents could guide you through the available topics. This radio is one of the early European AM and FM vacuum tube radios. Like most of the cheap radios made in Europe after the early 1950s, it is enclosed in a plastic case. The original receiver included an electromechanical timepiece, which made it a pretty radio alarm clock. The radio has been used and in between the late 1970s and early 1980s underwent some significant repair and adaptation, which included the removal of the alarm clock, which now is lost. The actual circuit structure is point-to-point, with very small components fitting a very small space, but built in layers. This structural choice is definitely unfortunate, making the repair of the radio very difficult and a decent restoration practically impossible. In fact, this project is part of the failure chapters because the radio has only been repaired, keeping in place all the still working components and not restored. Also, the alignment has not been touched. When I was a kid in the late 1970s, I received this radio from a person living in a house near the apartment building where I was. I wasn't introduced to this person, but apparently he knew that I was tampering with old radios. He approached me when I was walking near his vegetable garden. He showed me the radio, asking me if I wanted to have it. Of course, I happily accepted the gift from this gentle stranger. I repaired the radio, replacing the components that were visibly damaged, using components recovered from old televisions previously dismantled. For instance, I replaced the missing knob for the tone control with a plastic shaft used to access variable resistors from the rear of television sets. The mechanical alarm clock wasn't working already, and I remember that I tried to fix it. It worked for a short while, but then I gave up servicing it and I removed it definitely because the radio is too compact and too hot. Removing the clock would have left a little more space for airflow. Unfortunately, after 2 moves and other common life events, the mechanical clock has been lost. The truth is that I kept the radio only because it is relatively small. At the time of my first move, I had collected more important radio sets, which I had to give away due to the lack of space in my new apartment. Like all AM and FM radios, also this one has a complicated schematic diagram, due to the necessity to switch various parts of the circuit simultaneously. The schematics should be interpreted together with a guide to the variable inductances and trimmer capacitors used for the alignment. Online there is also available the description of the alignment procedure. However, for this unit, no alignment is attempted. Due to the way in which the radio has been built, it is impractical cleaning it except then using some pressured air. However, in the effort of finding the reason that was preventing the radio to return to life, this unit has been washed in a dishwasher after removing the potentiometers. The dirt and the dust were not the cause of the failure, but luckily the experiment wasn't destructive. The radio wasn't working just because of the selenium rectifier. Replacing it with a silicon diode brought the radio back to life. Repairing the radio is meaningful only if the unit can be used then. Not replacing the capacitors that more likely have the chance to fail puts the unit at risk of severe damage. The fuse that is expected to be used is a fast 300 milliamps type, but that would not give sufficient protection against those internal failures. On the other hand, if a lower current fuse were used, it would likely fail just when the radio is turned on or off, due to the initial or final current surge. Considering that the radio is capable of working at a slightly lower voltage, a small 60-watt light bulb is incorporated in the radio, putting it in series with it. If a failure were provoking an increased current absorption, the light bulb would become brighter and the voltage drop across it would increase, reducing the voltage available to the radio. The light bulb would be visible from the window formerly occupied by the clock. Also, the antenna connection requires some attention, but instead of using the original sockets, a new input is arranged decoupled using security capacitors. There would be a unique antenna input for AM and FM. In the original radio, the power on switch was part of the alarm clock, which is missing here. The test starts with the FM band.
Sta scrivendo. Quando la serata è finita, ma la tua fame... Ma un hamburger! Il microfono non saluto ancora. Un concerto live. Nei giorni. Grandi parliamo. Un anno di il blues e la badina. Di consueto.
Medium wave band. Unfortunately, in the apartment building, where the test is performed, medium wave and the long wave bands are affected by an important source of electromagnetic noise.
Io mi voglio ricordare che siete all'ascolto di Amica Radio.
Dobrava Europea, prese drugim u Austriji, Franciji. Seguire poi con la prima giornata di quartiere.
In the long wave band, no radio station was received. This radio, like other radios produced in particular in the 1950s in Europe, has the chassis directly connected to the mains. Even when the radio is turned off, but still connected to the mains, getting in touch with any metal part of the radio would imply an electrocution. In particular, in the event that a knob comes off, the power plug should immediately be disconnected from the main socket. But also operating the radio with wet hands should be absolutely avoided. This video comes with written documentation available from the links appearing under the Show More tab, containing more details and better resolution pictures compared to what the video could offer.